everybody. I'm John Boitnott, and welcome to From the Ground Up. Today, we're going to be talking about AI a whole lot, but first, let me introduce you to who we're going to be talking to. It's Murray Newlands, a longtime colleague of mine, and working with AI in Silicon Valley in many different ways. Murray, how are you today?
John, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to reconnect. It's amazing. I realized this morning we've known each other more than 10 years. And we've been through an amazing journey together of many different tech booms, tech downs. And right now we're in the middle of what's happening with AI, and super excited to be on the show. Thank you to
Yeah.
everyone for listening.
Yeah. I remember one of the very first things I did after I first met you more than 10 years ago was you interviewed me for a particular website about social media and about how to help with PR and companies along those lines. So the tables are reversed today, all these years later. But
Thank you.
yeah, of course. So you are working with startups and events and venture capital in Silicon Valley right now. Just give us your background and where you're at right now, Murray.
So I come from Cambridge, England. I moved to the Bay Area maybe 15 years ago. My day job is with Y Plus. We're a venture capital firm based in Palo Alto. We primarily invest in Gen AI startups, really focused on Stanford founders, although we do look at founders from across the spectrum. And why Stanford founders? Well, they tend to have the best fundraising and the best exits. So statistically, we're going for winning startups. But we say we do look at startups from across the spectrum. I also run an event series under the brand Open Future Forum. We have about 100 to 200 startups every single Monday in Palo Alto. So if you haven't been part of that, do come. We've had people fly in from China, from the Middle East, just from those events. We also, this week, for example, ran an event on AI and healthcare, and we do vertically specific things. So I meet hundreds of AI startups every week, and I have about 50,000 AI startups in my newsletter.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of talk about AI these days. I know it's becoming, it's just the amount of startups and folks coming into the Bay Area, into the U.S. from around the world, tackling this area is just sort of growing and becoming bigger and bigger. And you're building quite a good business around that. Talk to me about, so you talked about the fund that you're working on and sort of the companies that you're looking for. But what are some of the big trends that you're seeing in AI these days, and some of the ones that you're looking at with these companies that you're coming into contact with?
So we're at an interesting stage in what's happening with this technology. So firstly, creating AI models, if you're going to be doing fundamental models, etc., is very hard and very expensive. And also, the big tech companies have been working with AI for a number of years. So what that means is that it's very hard for tech companies around the world to raise enough money to do their own AI. So because the Bay Area has the capacity to raise enough money, that has really focused AI in the Bay Area. And then because the big tech companies have been doing it for a number of years, and obviously Stanford University is the center of this, there's a lot of focus globally on what's happening in the Bay Area. So that's meant that the Bay Area, specifically South Bay around Palo Alto, has been one of the really the global epicenter of AI, which is amazing to be living here. So luck, time, circumstance have brought me to where I am now. So I want to recognize that. The other thing is to recognize where we are in the life cycle of this. We saw, for example, at the start of the internet, AOL was a massive player, less so now, because when you start with these booms, it tends to be infrastructure where the dominance is. So that's why we're seeing OpenAI, for example, and the fundamental models as really very important in this part of the cycle. But as the cycle moves forward, what happens is that the application layer starts to become more important, and we're also seeing that trend. What's interesting, though, is we still don't know where we are with this. So you could look at it from many perspectives. As many of the startups are still creating, if you think about the car coming in, for example, Many of these startups are still creating shinier, newer, faster horseshoes, not looking at cars or flying cars or electric cars. So we need to think about where we are with this. And a perfect example is OpenAI just released version 4, for example, which
Yeah.
is mind-blowing changes that have happened. They've introduced a translation tool. Obviously, that was obviously coming. Over the last year and a half, I've seen lots of startups doing stuff in the translation space. Well, if you think about where this is going to go, it's obvious that we have Google Translate as well already. It's obvious that that's going to be something that's going to be massively affected by the big players. Education too. They produce an amazing technology for education, like straight out of the platform. So one of the things to think about from a startup perspective is, are you going to just be producing something that's going to be disrupted by one of the bigger players, or are you in a niche which they're not going to go after? That's one of the big trends we're seeing.
Yeah. What are some of the big challenges that you're seeing right now, and what are you excited about most, or some of the things you're excited about most that you're seeing so far? I know it's a little hard to tell because of just how new everything kind of is. We're not sure where we're at, but what are some sort of the exciting things that you're seeing and the challenges that you're seeing?
As I say, one of the amazing things about this whole process is that if you think we're just at the start of it, we're really at the kind of what horseshoe or pager stage of the internet, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
I
the
think the what's going to be uncovered by what's possible is still to be discovered. So we still don't know that and how societal changes. I see the big opportunity as how we engage with information. So for example, right now we use our phones and we type. You could see AI taking that to voice very quickly, and how we search for things, why we search for things. Obviously, we know each other from the content space.
yeah,
How if you now don't search for things on Google, if you just ask questions of an AI, what does that mean for the results? What does that mean for publishers, the content marketing industry, writers? How does that all come together and produced and sent to you? How do you monetize that when it's all just through the chat engine? What does that mean for whole sections of the industry? How we communicate? What's an authority? Is an authority the New York Times? Is an authority what ChatGPT says to you is the answer? Is Wikipedia the answer? We don't know that. So that whole change in society, I think, is super exciting. Earlier this week, we had an event for AI in healthcare. Now, I had NVIDIA speak at one of my conferences last year, and they had said, openly, they didn't, healthcare data is very hard to get. And they
yeah,
didn't necessarily think that that was going to be a section that was going to blow up. But people have managed to get healthcare data to work on with AI models. And that can entirely change various sections of healthcare, cancer discovery, drug discovery. So the way that humanity treats itself from a medical perspective could change as dramatically as having electricity or having health, like real doctors. Imagine a world where anyone in the world with access to a phone can have the best AI health uh, doctor in the world with them, instantly diagnosing exactly what happens. And to that element, I met a startup, for example, which is working on some technology to use the camera on your phone to detect your blood pressure. So you could be anywhere in the world, in developing world. Your camera can detect your blood pressure, predict so many things about your eye, your face, everything that's happened, give you a diagnosis, and recommend what you could do within the environment you're in. That is truly amazing for humanity.
yeah. Sounds unbelievable. Definitely exciting times we're living in, and exciting times to come. Um, so, but some things never change, and that's that these entrepreneurs need to raise money for their ventures, right? And so,
Right.
have things changed in the way that people are raising money for their ventures, or is it? What are some key things that are going on now that people or some trends that, in terms of raising money, that entrepreneurs should look at, or some general tips for raising money? And are those tips like the same as they've always been, or like there's some newer ways to do things? What's the new atmosphere like? Just talk about it.
So it's really interesting. I met some investors who said they invest in startups at the beginning of last year, and those startups were doing amazing things with AI. And now most of them have been entirely surpassed. So what's interesting is to think you really, because we know the environment is going to change so fast, a lot of it is betting on the team and will they be able to adapt to this very, very fast moving environment. So to a certain extent, you're betting on the jockey rather than the horse in this process. And so what the outcome of that is, and what are they good at raising money, and will they be able to survive this changing environment is super important. Other things such as, are they in a space which is not so likely to be disrupted by one of the big players? Do they have some deep industry knowledge that they're applying to this specific sector that will unleash massive amounts of change and money? How does that play out within the changing environment? The other thing, if you just use OpenAI to get your search results, then you don't need any marketing tools. You don't need content marketing. What does that mean for that whole industry? Is just wiped out. But then how will that actually be replaced?
Right.
So looking at the megatrends and looking at the individuals within that space, that is a ever increasing dynamic.
Yeah. But as far as that content marketing and PR side of things, will you have to have people with some expertise in order to manage sort of the increasingly AI-led efforts? Or do you have any insights in that area? I'd be interested to pick your brain. If not, it's okay.
It's fascinating. I meet a lot of startups working in the software development space, building cool tools for coders. And yet, the head of NVIDIA says that they're going to entirely replace software developers. That's one of their goals. And from everything from management down. And with the advances in AI, I would say that the AI developers were saying that they will entirely replace the people in that process for marketing, communications, and those experts will be better than the humans that are already doing it. What that means for those humans, yet to be seen.
Yeah, maybe we'll all just be living on some sort of universal basic income and going to Cyprus and living on a beach. No, somehow I don't think that's going to be happening. But okay, so as far as raising funds, anything additional that you'd like to mention there in general that you feel like you haven't had a chance to mention?
Look, I think there's increasingly a world where investors are going to be using different AI tools to research, analyze startups. But the human connection is ever more important in a world where everything is AI dominated. And so still, even with content marketing, there's so much content being produced by AI, and so many extra connections are being made that actually the close personal connections are even more important than they were before. So it's even more important to have real personal communications. Obviously, over the last few years, we've seen an explosion of content marketing and machine generated content. More important than ever, it's coming back to who are the people, what is a trusted source, who is saying what, and having those one-on-one relationships over time. So I think it really comes back to the fundamentals of who your connections are. And I think even within the AI models, which are analyzing what to invest in, they will emphasize that increasingly in the future.
Yeah. All right, Murray. Well, for everyone who's watching, please give us your information again so anyone can get a hold of you if they need to.
Murray Newlands from Y Plus, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
All right, and Open Future Forum, right, is also the
Open Future Forum is a community which I run, and so we have events every week in Palo Alto, and then also in other parts of the Bay.
All right, wonderful. All right, Murray, thank you very much for appearing on From the Ground Up. Talk to you soon.
John, thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you for watching and listening.